He's in charge. There we go.
I'd like to call to order the July 20th, 2021 Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting. Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Here.
Mr. Neal.
Here.
Mr. Oper.
Here.
Mr. Slattery.
Here.
Mrs. Barczak.
Here, can we stand for the pledge, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an efficient and effective fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium, state his or her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had the opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. Do we have anyone who'd like to speak tonight? Okay. Right. Oh, go ahead. There's a
It's for the presentation later. Oh, so, hi everybody, my name is Mike Changary. I live at 8705 Morton Avenue in the fine city of Brooklyn. It's been a very long time since I've got to address you guys live, so I want to get right to the meat of the issue is why I'm here. I have a notice that I want to read. July 20th, 2021, today I'm providing a much overdue explanation of our rights and those powers granted to the government, which is our school board. We, the people, I'm a man, there are women, but the board are persons that represent personnel of the Brooklyn City School District. These persons mentioned above have all sworn an oath to represent the vested rights of the people in the subdivision known as the City of Brooklyn, Ohio, and have been granted some rights that have been given to form this board. We, the people, have rights guaranteed by our Creator, the Almighty God. The persons seated at the table represent a limited form of our government, the treasurer, secretary, and the board. In promoting the general welfare, we have granted limited power to the personnel of the Brooklyn City school system. The people have rights guaranteed to us and that can never be taken away by our Creator. A person that takes an oath becomes a public servant and must adhere to that said oath. A public servant can be removed for violating their oaths to serve the people. And I have supporting information related to that. The oath that you guys took, just so I know, and everyone in the audience knows, let me find it. Bylaws, oath, bylaws. Give me a second here.
You're fine.
Basically, it says that you have to uphold, not defend, but uphold the state constitution and the Constitution of the United States of America. As written in the Declaration of Independence, when in the course of human events becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind require that we shall declare the causes which impel us to this separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And in the state constitution it says property, which I'll read in a minute.
Mr.
That's
Chingary,
just-
I don't mean to interrupt you. You're getting close to your 3 minutes. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? Okay, so you're getting close to 3 minutes, so you're gonna have to wrap it up.
Oh, I'm, okay. Well, I'm not gonna be done in 3 minutes. May I request additional time? Sure.
Sure, you can do another 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the people. As stated, we have our Bill of Rights, we have the unanimous Constitution of the United States. I am hereby declaring on this day that this limited form of government is acting and committing various acts of treason, not only against our people, but the children that populate our schools, that will harm the safety and happiness of my posterity and the people of this subdivision. The elected officials on this board are public servants and must act according to their oath. To remedy these violations of their oath, this board must return to the oath or resign. First, violations of the Nuremberg Code, 1947. By offering an emergency use authorization experimental inoculation to a student without parental consent, the Brooklyn City School District has placed themselves in position as a medical licensed practitioner. Enforcing mandates and coercion of medical devices without a medical licensure when presented with exemptions, this board, the Brooklyn School District, refused to excuse the students and parents, informing that they would be removed and or charged. Under Ohio law, HB 244 prohibits under section 3792.04 A and B, notwithstanding any conflicting provisions of the revised code, a public school or state institution of higher education shall not do either of the following: require an individual to receive a vaccine for which the U.S. FDA has not granted full approval, discriminate against an individual who has not received a vaccine described in Division B1 of this action, including by requiring the individual to engage in or refrain from engaging in activities or precautions that differ from the activities or precautions of an individual who has received such a vaccine. 2, the Confucius Institute and Confucius Classroom are used by the Chinese Communist Party, and I've mentioned this several times in the past, and I hope we can act accordingly in this. General Secretary Xi Jinping has stated the intentions are to give a good narrative for the Chinese government. On August 13, 2020, the United States Department of State designated the Confucius Classroom program as a foreign mission of the Chinese Communist Party. These institutes have been classified as agents of a foreign government due to concerns over academic freedom and presents a selective and politicized view of China as a means of advancing the Chinese Communist Party's power over not only the United States of America, but the rest of the world.
Mr. Chingari, you've got 10 seconds left.
Madam President, can we extend this?
Yeah,
I'd like to hear the rest of
Okay.
it. We
You'd like-
need to vote on it, don't we?
okay, that's fine. We can extend it another 3
Everybody
minutes.
agree,
I'm fine with
disagree,
it.
That's
agree?
fine.
I should be
Fine.
done in
We
like
can-
5 minutes.
Yeah,
Thank you,
no,
sir.
you can,
I
that's
think
fine.
it's the
We
right
can
thing
extend
to
it
do.
another 3 minutes.
It has interfered with academic freedom by pressuring the administrations to censor speech on topics that the Chinese Communist Party objects to. They are financed and managed by the People's Liberation Army of the Chinese Communist Party of China. Once they have a classroom on your campus, the opinions and authority that is ultimately answerable back to China, and which is not subject to scholarly review, and this has happened numerous times under prior administrations, and I don't think it happened under current administration, but they are here to take away from our heritage as United States citizens and as Americans. The Confucius Institute and Classroom have censored and continue to censor our heritage and must be removed. Next point, Ohio Student Religious Liberties Act of 2019 became law on 9/14/2020. There's 3 sections of the ORC code, 3320.01, 02, and 03 shall be collectively known as the above named law. Violations occur daily across this entire Brooklyn City School District by denying religious expressions such as prayer and a moment of silence during morning announcements. Period. Our next bullet point. We the people must demand our public servants function within the property taxes granted for use to educate our children. All county, state, federal, and monies granted by agents of a foreign government and or representatives, proxies, or other must be returned, which is on the one of the items you're going to vote on tonight. All agreements entered into by this board because of the above-mentioned infractions must be scrutinized and, if necessary, terminated. The vested rights in our property have been taxed without our consent. I demand that our property be unencumbered, and we grant a newly seated board when presented with a budget that reflects the above demands. If I may, I want to mention one thing about the budget. And you may correct me if I'm wrong. I was reading this, and there's a section here where you guys have to declare a 412 certification, which is signed by the treasurer, you, Madam President, and the superintendent. Well, everything sounds great now because we're getting a lot of extra free money from the taxpayers at the federal and state level. Unfortunately, in 2 short years, we're going to be $4 million in the hole, per our projection by our fabulous treasurer. If we don't stop our spending the way it is now, we need to cut at least 20.57%, according to your report, to maintain the current status of our system. Now, the good thing is the inaction of the 412 certification will not affect any program that's offered to the student for education or the teachers that provide the direct engagement in the teaching of our children. And by the way, that's another thing that we need to change. The definition of student is only legally allowed to be used for the university or a unit or a system of a higher form of education. The term for elementary and secondary are pupils, which represent little men and little women, or little boys and little girls, which is from the Greek and the Latin. The reason why I say it's important to return to that is because we are not under statutory law. We have granted you powers by the Ohio State Constitution, which I have with me, and by the National Constitution to provide an education for our children. We cannot allow you to spend this money because once the federal CARES Act, I think it's Sears 2 or whatever that, EARS 2 and EARS 3 money, every district across the country is being thrown a hook and being reeled in by taking this free money. There's a catch. The catch is they only provide less than 20% of our operating budget of this school board. The people of this community in our subdivision, known as Brooklyn, pays 69% of the taxes to provide this education. I really am going to get to the other point, I have a bunch of regulations and rules I wanted to go over, but in a matter of time, I will cut it short. The 412 certification, on the very back of this document, and we can all confer with this after, if you guys want to communicate with me, I would be more than happy to help us get back to a constitutional standing and stop taking money that has too many earmarks for it, which is educational programs that none of us in this community agree with. In the bottom here, it says the taxpayer in the taxpayer's own name may institute the action on behalf of the subdivision. So I am informing you by legal notice today of the violations, and I'm doing it politely and respectfully. If the district does not stop the spending and rein in your authority, I will be forced to start a legal action against this subdivision with everyone in my community subdivision, which is the city of Brooklyn, will be signing a petition shortly to stop the bleed of our money. The other thing that the people in this community don't know, we have already maxed out 58 mills, which is the legal lawful maximum that this board can request. And by us voting for additional monies, this is basically how I said it to my children. The DC swamp has left DC. It has now entered the state of Ohio, and unfortunately in the administration, it is here in our community. Not only here, but at Brooklyn City Hall. And I've been dealing with it, and since everyone was shut down, I did not have an opportunity. Since I do not follow the written questions and answers, it's a violation of my rights. The board has an obligation to listen to us. The other thing I wanted to address, in the beginning of our country, when we did enact our education for the common good and welfare of the people, the First Amendment guarantees our right to peaceably assemble and redress our grievances with our elected officials. This meeting needs to stop being called a visitors meeting And we need to go back to where it is constitutionally that if there are 20 people that want to make a presentation about what we are doing and how we could rein in our spending and turn back the money so that we can teach our kids civics and everything that we want to teach them, and I know that that's everyone from my experiences with everyone on this board, that that's what we ought to be doing, because we don't want to be taking money from an agent of a foreign government. Whether you've done your research or not, and I'm not going to spell out or mention the name, I've read and I've got articles to prove, they're pushing a social credit program. So when you accept that $12,000, you're putting our heritage and
Madam
throwing.
President, I think you should finish up.
Okay.
my opinion.
Okay.
Oh, in my
Um,
conclusion,
The rest of the board feel, do you want to, okay.
in
wrap it up.
conclusion, I just wanted to state, I have all the documentation, I have all the ORC codes, I have everything that's been enacted since, and the last thing that I would like to add is, there's a line that the superintendent, under his authority, needs to be removed, because even though you have vested him with authority to operate the district in a statutory manner, pupils do not fall under statutory law. And that's something you might want to talk with your board attorneys. So he can administer all the statutes according to your board rules, the state of Ohio, administratively. But when it comes to dealing with little boys, little girls, young men and women, statutory does not cut it. And that authority must be removed. That's why we elected you as our board. And I would be more than happy to answer questions. And I do have more. I'll come back for another presentation. But thank you very much for listening. God bless you all, and God bless our great community. And thank you for allowing me to
Mr. Gary.
speak.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Gary. Anyone else wishing to speak tonight? Okay. We're going to go on with the agenda. Now we're going to go over to the review of the agenda items. Dr. Ted Claris.
Good evening, Ms. Barczyk, Board of Education. I'll go over a review of agenda items. I'll start with agenda item 3.1, student commendation from the fourth quarter of last school year. Commendation of students from fourth quarter honor roll and merit roll. Item 3.2 will be the purchase of classroom furniture for one of our high school classrooms. Item 3.3 will be the purchase of a Promethean boards for technology throughout our different classrooms through ESSER2 grant money. Item 3.4 will be an agreement with PaySchools for the food service management throughout the district. This is a switch of from one program to another. This syncs with our current system, so it'll be more user-friendly for Mrs. Neal and her department. So it'll be a little bit easier for her to use and a little syncs with our current system. Item 3.5 is an emergency approval, repair approval of our masonry repair on our column. One of our high school columns on our roof is damaged, so that'll be an emergency approval. 3.5. 3.6, professional development agreement with the Bureau of Educational Research into, they'll be coming out to do some block scheduling professional development with our grades 8 through 12 teaching staff. Item 4.1, certified retirement of one of our high school teachers. We got that late retirement back in late June. 4.2 is a commendation. Congratulations for Miss. I'm sorry, did I miss one? I apologize.
Yeah, 3.7.
Oh, yes, I apologize. Yes, 3.7, an agreement with Northeast Ohio NEOnet for district technology coordinator. We have a resignation from one of our administrators, so they'll be filling in for the school year for our technology services to provide that service for the school year. So thank you, Ms. Barczyk. Jumping back in, 4.1, certified retirement for one of our high school teachers. 4.2, commendation for that high school teacher. 4.3, employment of classified staff as noted. 4.4, classified resignation. 4.5, we have 2 supplemental coaching resignations. 4.6, we have a supplemental coaching assignments. We're going to be approving those two coaching positions, a new position and a volunteer coaching position. 4.7, we're going to be amending a resolution from a previous approval, so we've adjusted a couple supplementals, so we've done that to accommodate those coaches. 4.8, these will be our veteran teachers who'll be working with our new certified staff in an entry-level mentoring capacity, so that will be 4.8. 4.9, as I mentioned before, will be an administrative resignation. 4.10, that administrator will be ending his duties with us on effective August 1st. We're going to have this administrator kind of on call effective August 1st. He'll be coming in available after hours, working with our new technology coordinator, just in the capacity to help with some transition. We want to make sure we're up and running for first day of school. So just a minimal transition with the new person coming in. So that'll be a kind of a consulting contract with Mr. Taylor coming back in from August standpoint. And those are my agenda items, Mrs.
Thank
Barcheck
you.
Board.
Thank you.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Burke.
Could you explain a little bit more detail on 3.6, the motion for professional development? I read through it. So this is for block classroom?
Yeah, so last school year, we because of the pandemic and because of the modified schedule, we kind of went to that block scheduling to help with transitions. Mr. Herron, the teaching staff, we're gonna have a very similar schedule to that this year. So what we wanna do is we wanna make sure the teachers are supported in terms of making sure that that block scheduling is just not an extended singular schedule, singular period. So we don't want it to become two lecture periods. We want the teachers to be supported in terms of that professional development and how to make that block scheduling more effective in terms of instruction for kids. So not just to make it a long 70-minute lecture. So this company, who does a lot of work with lots of different school districts, is gonna come in and provide some basic training on block schedule for us.
So how do you discern between one period and another? I imagine it's like two periods.
So the way the schedule's set up, Mr. Stringer, so let's just use an example, math. Math will be meeting with kids, let's say I'm in geometry, for example. I'll have 2 block periods, 2 70-minute periods a day, and I don't know if those are the correct numbers, but let's just say 2 70-minute periods twice a week, and then I'll have a 40-minute period once a week. So technically I'll see that teacher 3 times a week. What we want to do is we want to make sure that those 70-minute periods are not just 70 minutes of lecture or 70. We want to make sure that teachers are working with kids in terms of introductory lessons and group work, and we want to make it more interactive and more cooperative and more hands-on for kids as opposed to just one long minute period. So we want to make sure our teachers, because just to say to our teaching staff, go teach for 70 minutes, well, what happens is teachers just end up saying, okay, I'm going to teach for 50 minutes and then go do homework for 20 minutes. We don't want that to happen. We want them to have some strategies and skill sets so that they can effectively teach kids in that block schedule the right way.
And I would assume some of that would help identify kids that are falling behind so they can
Absolutely,
identify and
yeah.
work with them a little bit more to get them
Absolutely.
back up to speed.
So they're gonna work with teachers in terms of setting up lessons, assessment strategies, lecture strategies. They're gonna work, and then that's gonna be that foundational professional development that Brian and Matt work with, and Michelle work with the staff all throughout the year. And again, this is just kind of step one in terms of how they work with kids throughout the year.
I think there's a value to block scheduling. I know I think it prepares them more for college, in my opinion, because you're not in some
Yeah.
class for 40 minutes, so I think it's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now on to Miss A.
I only have one thing on the agenda. I have the student activities I have for approval.
Okay.
I wasn't here prior, but I believe that they were approved intermittently. I did it one time at the beginning of the year. Hopefully it will be easier for planning and budgeting. So I have all the student activities for fiscal year '22 on the agenda for voting.
So $60,000?
60,000 was only for one activity, and he's in this room.
Anyone else? Okay. Now on to comments from board members and board committee reports, and tonight we're gonna start with Mr. Rick Singer.
Thank you, Madam President. Don't have too much to say other than looking forward to the new school year, to a regular school year for our students, and so that they can take advantage of the block scheduling. And I'm not a big fan of online learning, so I think getting back to normal will be nice. The school management newsletter that comes out from the OSBA came up with an interesting topic and commentary on the U.S. Supreme Court, which upholds the regulation of off-campus student speech. You know, we've had issues with sometimes some kids, they're all on social media, they're all on Instagram and Facebook and everything else. So basically, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the regulation of off-campus student speech. So it's when they're not in school or they might be in an off-school activity. I just want to read very briefly what the do's and the don'ts are. And these are the don'ts. So these can be taken action by the board, by the administration, if they violate these terms. Indecent, lewd, or vulgar speech uttered during a school assembly on school grounds, which is grounds for action. Speech during a class trip that promotes illegal drug use. Speech that others may reasonably perceive at bearing the imprimatum of the school, such as speech in a school-sponsored newspaper. So something that's derogatory, that materially affects the other students or possibly the teachers, and interferes with the course curriculum, is action that can be taken by the board or administration. However, the court stressed that when the courts are applying the First Amendment to student speech cases, they must do so in light of the special characteristics of the school environment. You know, even though our students are protected by the First Amendment, they're not totally protected by the First Amendment under the Tinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School, 393 U.S. Court 503. That was decided in 1969 by the Supreme Court. So basically, in a nutshell, what it says is that, you know, we've had students that sometimes violate the protocol of social media, and the Supreme Court upheld our right as a school board and administration to take action against those students who basically, they either willfully or unintentionally hurt other students in the school. They might besmirch some of the activities of the administration and staff, and I call it old-fashioned bullying. That bullying has been mitigated quite a bit over the last year or two, but every once in a while it pops up its ugly head, and we find ourselves having to discipline our students. So just a word of warning to the parents out there, it starts with all of you. The school is not a substitute for the parent to watch over what their kids are posting on social media. So I've seen it myself, kind of in dismay, very disheartening to see that some kids are posting things that they shouldn't be. And hopefully we won't have to take any kind of disciplinary action against them. So that's the end of my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Rick. Now on to Mr. Rob Slattery.
Facilities, that's Dr. Ted, myself, and Mrs. Neal. The work has started at around the stadium while the parking lots are being repaired. I actually drove through, been going through every day. They got half of the visitor parking by the football stadium done. Hopefully they'll be back tomorrow. It looks like the weather's gonna cooperated enough for us to get that done. And then they're gonna seal coat these parking lots. So it's looking good. We did get an email from Dr. Ted that the work that we're hoping to do at the stadium, resurfacing, redoing the track and everything might be pushed off, depending on the weather, but we're actually gonna meet with the contractor and figure that out. As far as the rec board, day camp is going. There were some photos posted today. They had some sort of zoo activities. A couple of the kids were holding a big snake. So it looks like that's going well. And then Safety Town has not started yet, but all the buildings are up on the property. They've been wrapped. They have the street signs up and everything is paved and painted. So it looks pretty nice. So I think the kids will have a good time up there. So that is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Slattery. Now on to Mr. Jim Ober.
Thank you, Madam President. Polaris, there's usually no July meeting, so, but the administration is still working, of course, to ensure that the opening of school next month is on schedule and everything is ready. Seniors, high school seniors, recent graduates and adults that are exploring some job training and career opportunities. There's an open house at Polaris on Wednesday the 4th, between 5 and 7 for adult job and career training. You can explore job opportunities and career training and learn about financial aid options, tuition payments, and federal student loans that are available to qualified applicants. The programs are automotive service technician, new program building maintenance, cardiographic technician, cosmetology, dental assisting, early child care education and child development associate, HVAC, manicurist, that's new, medical assisting, medical billing and coding, phlebotomy certification, police academy, precision CNC machine technology, and welding. Admission's free, and you need to, if you are interested or need additional details, call Teresa at 440-891-7697, and she can set you up with a personal tour if you can't make the open house. And I'd like to also say congratulations to all the honor and merit roll students from the 4th quarter. And that's
Thank
all
you.
I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ober. Now on to Mr. Rocky Neal.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Chingari, thank you for your insight. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. All right. I would just like to welcome everybody back. Looking forward to the fall season. Looking forward to see some faces without masks on them, that's for sure. What I would like to do, one of my departments is legislation. And I would just like to recommend to everybody or invite everybody to look at ohiochannel.org and look at the State Board of Education. I'm fortunate enough that I work at home, so I tune in there. It's every Monday, second Monday and Tuesday. And it's pretty enlightening. Last month, they took probably 15 minutes on just how they were gonna say yay or nay. You know, I mean, they discussed that, so I see where this.
Sounds riveting.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, seriously, this is what my money's going to. So I just would like to invite everybody to go down to their State Board of Education. It's on ohiochannel.org. And, you know, you'll see things. It's not the most efficient, but I think everybody would enjoy it and watch it for a little bit, so. But that's all I got today.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Thank you, Mr. Chingari, for your presentation. Thank you. I don't have a large report tonight. I hope everyone's enjoying their summer. I also would like to congratulate all the students who made honor and merit roll. Doing great things. And then I would also like to recognize our students who are getting prepared for the fall. Our band members, band camp will be coming up. I think it's pre-band camp this week. Band camp is next week. Then we have our fall sports athletes who are starting to be getting ready and having our camps and all those things going on. So I'd like to recognize those. And I would also like to say that I hope everyone is having a very safe summer. And if anyone would ever like to reach me, my number is 216-406-4304. And tonight's reader, we're going to go into the reading of minutes, is Mr. Rob Slattery.
Thank you. 2.1 minutes of the Board of Education. Resolve the minutes of the Board of Education. Meeting is be adopted and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes?
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of June 2021, including all purchase orders paid and all then and now statements for the month as submitted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends the following students for the attachment for the fourth quarter honor roll and merit roll for the 2020-21 school year, as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Congratulations.
Good job. That's awesome. Good job. Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to purchase classroom furniture from Martin Public Seating LLC through the Asia Society grant for the Brooklyn City School District Chinese classroom per the attached quote.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
I have a comment on this. So, let me get this straight. The Asia Society grant is paying for the furniture?
This is the annual $10,000 grant we receive from the Asia Society,
Okay.
and this is the money that will pay for the furniture. If we don't use the grant for this purchase, we would use general fund money for it, Mr. Singer. Correct.
So, it's within the confines of the grant itself that allows us to buy.
That is a correct
furniture.
statement. Absolutely. Yes.
Is this Asia Society grant coming from the Chinese government?
It's coming from the Asia Society grant. I cannot speak to exactly where it's coming from.
Is it a private, is it a U.S. Group?
It is not a U.S. group. That I can answer that specifically. I
Is
don't
it-
know exactly, I don't know the exact funding specifics of the grant, but I know it's not a U.S. group.
It is not, you said?
I don't believe so, Mr. Neal, no.
Is it the Confucius? Is
Yes,
it part-
it's,
it-
yeah, it's,
This
yeah.
is.
This is what we talked about previous in the
Yes,
school.
this is-
This is the grant money that we talked about previously.
Mm-hmm.
There's $23,000 in that account, and that's what we're using. If we don't use the grant money for it, then we're gonna take it out of general fund money.
And we
To do-
already approved for the grant to come in, so we already did receive the money.
So what happens if we don't use the money then?
Could we
If
table this, have a discussion,
What?
find out where it's coming from? I mean, in detail.
I just want to hear about the. like,
So
ahead,
we
I'm
do
sorry.
have, that's good, we do have the money, we already received the money, there, you can carry some of it over, but if not, there's that particular, we might have to pay them back. So we approved the Asian grant already, we got the money already, now we wanna spend it.
Okay.
Is the furniture made in America?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have a motion on the floor to table? Do we have a
I
motion?
just made the conversation.
Do we have a second to table? Do we need a second, correct, table? Second to table, though?
I'll vote to table, that's, I mean,
Okay.
I honestly don't have a problem moving forward with the vote, but whatever the
I
majority.
don't either, but
Well, then if you don't want to table, then don't table.
Yeah, you don't have,
We need a vote on the table.
right.
Okay. Mrs. A, can you call the roll to vote on to tabling this,
Yes, Mr. Singer,
No.
Mr. Neal,
no.
Mr. Oper,
No.
Mr. Slattery,
No.
Mrs. Barcheck.
No. So now we will. Okay, so that was for the, that was the
Table.
vote to table it.
Correct.
So then now we're gonna vote on it now then.
Correct.
So, anyone else have any other comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll now just to be clear, so everyone is clear, we are voting now. Mr. Slattery, can you read the thing again so everybody knows what we are voting for? 3.2.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent purchase classroom furniture from Martin Public Seating LLC through the Asia Society grant for the Brooklyn High School Chinese classroom per the attached quote.
Okay, and I already have a motion for it. I already have a second. Now we're going, Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes superintendent to purchase Promethean interactive board for Empower Learning through the ESSER 2 grant per the attached quote.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby enters into an agreement with PaySchools for food service management per the attached contract.
Can I have a
Agreement
motion,
on file in the treasurer's office.
can I have a motion, please?
So
Sorry, Mr.
moved.
Slattery. Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Question, so they're replacing the current contract of the collection of the money for school
Yeah,
entrance?
the current system we use does not sync with our student management system, so it makes it almost, it makes it very difficult for our business office to collect our student information. So this system will reduce man-hours out of Mrs. Neal's office to help with the collection of free reduced information and student demographic information and all, so it will reduce significantly man-hours out of our business office.
Does that include reporting for?
Absolutely,
How many kids
absolutely.
take lunches?
Correct, yes.
What's the cost of this?
The initial charge this year was $18,000. That includes setup, this and that. I think an annual cost somewhere between $6,000 and $9,000, Mr. Singer, after we get the setup
That
this year.
includes the setup?
This year, the initial cost was $18,000. Going forward, it'll somewhere be between $6,000 to $9,000.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes,
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into an emergency agreement with professional roofing services to perform masonry column repairs at Brooklyn High School. Estimate in the amount of $6,000 per the received estimate on file in the business office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
yes,
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter an agreement with the Bureau of Education and Research to provide professional development on August 23rd, 2021, the amount of $5,324. Agreement on file in Treasurer's Office, funds to be allocated from the district grants fund.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
what is the district grant fund?
So it's gonna be one of our federal grant funds, either Title I, Title II, or one of our ESSER funds. I just don't know which one it's gonna be.
One of
Mr.
those three.
It's gonna be one of those three, and Mrs. Kalish wasn't available, so it's gonna be one of our, it's not gonna be a general fund. I just wasn't sure which one it is, so I wanted to make sure that the board was aware it'll be a grant fund. We haven't identified
We're
which
not
one it
using
was.
Brooklyn tax dollars.
Correct.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes,
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter a shared service agreement with Northeast Ohio Network for Educational Technology, NEOnet, per the attachment for the purpose of hiring a district technology coordinator, effective August 1st, 2021, ending June 30th, 2022, for the amount not to exceed $95,500, paid through the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 grant. Agreement on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Questions, comments?
I do want to do a little explanation on this. So Mr. Salary benefits for Mr. Smith, somewhere around $105,000. This contract's for a 12-month contract, which will be $95,500. It's gonna come in at less than that. So this $95,500 contract that's the maximum amount. So they're gonna bill us on a monthly or quarterly basis. It'll come in at less than that. So there'll be a savings this year with this contract. The intention is to use this service for this school year, reevaluate in the spring, see what it looks like, and kind of make some decisions next spring.
So
We'll be
you're
getting the
talking
same person
ballpark
all the time.
20,000.
I'm sorry.
You're looking ballpark $20,000 savings roughly.
I'm thinking 10 to 15. Mr. Slatter is if I'm being conservative, and yes, same
Well, same person-
so.
same person all the time.
Yeah, so what's going on now is NEOnet's posting, they're gonna work, Mrs. Kalish is gonna be myself and Ms. Kalish are gonna be part of the hiring process. They're gonna be here every day. They'll be a Brooklyn employee in presence every day, schedule. They'll just be a NEOnet employee,
Right.
so to speak. So yeah, we'll reevaluate that in the spring.
so
Same
they'll be,
employee?
they'll be here.
Same employee,
Okay,
yes.
so it'll be
Okay.
consistent.
They're gonna be their employee, not ours.
That is correct. They're here, yeah, they're their employee. That's why we're entering the service agreement. So that's why it's a 1-year agreement.
But it will be the same person, so you know, like, who's coming every day, so it isn't, okay.
Same person,
All right,
yep.
yeah. And then I just have a question, so we are able to use the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3
Yeah,
Okay,
because we
this
were
is-
gonna do that with Taylor's salary anyway. So,
Okay,
yeah,
that's-
so it's,
that falls under that umbrella of
it
things
does,
we're
that, so
able to
there's
use
no
it for.
impact on the general
Yes.
fund. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
And
Anyone
we'll be,
else?
and however we move forward, whether or not we use NEOnet going forward, or if we hire a new employee, we'll still be able to do that for the following 2 school years.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else have any questions? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby accepts with regret the certified retirement of Farron Blom, effective completion of 2020-21 school year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
The Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends Farron Blom for her 11 years of service to the students of Brooklyn.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Enjoy your retirement. Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following classified personnel for the 2021-2022 school year, contingent upon successful completion of background check and verification of credentials. Leah Bierman, classroom assistant, 7 hours per day, Appendix B, Step 3, 191 days per year. Mary Madison, playground monitor, 10:45 a.m. to 1 p.m., total of 2¼ hours per day, Appendix B, Step 3, 191 days per year. And Antoinette Loudon, assistant cook, 5½ hours per day, Appendix B, Step 3, 191 days per year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the resignation of Amy Karliak, classroom assistant, effective July 2nd, 2021. Did I say
Yep.
that right?
You did.
Good job. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following supplemental coaching resignations effective immediately. Vince Finari, assistant football coach, and Colin Costanzo, assistant football coach.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2021-2022 supplemental coaching assignments with revisions that such individuals comply with all Ohio High School Athletic Association rules and regulations and State Department of Education regulations pertaining to proper certification and first training and fulfill the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts. Thomas Hill Jr., assistant football coach, 3/4 FTE, and Rob Private's volunteer football coach, varsity football coach.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby amends Resolution Number 21-05-183 to reflect the FTE change from Pat Costanzo Jr. from assistant varsity football coach, 0.5 FTE, to assistant varsity football coach, 0.7 FTE.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
I have a question. So explain this to me. So before Mr. Costanzo resigned his position,
It's a different Mr. Costanzo.
it's a different Mr.
Yes.
Costanzo?
It's a different one.
Okay, we have two Mr. Costanzo.
Yeah,
We
we
do.
actually
Okay.
have three. We actually have three at one
Yeah.
point. We have
Okay.
Colin,
That one
Pat
threw me.
Senior, Pat
Yes.
Junior.
That one threw me a little bit. I go, wait a
So
minute.
Colin resigned,
Okay,
and then
Pat Junior took on
Pat
more
Junior took on more responsibility, yes.
Okay.
Who's on
Okay.
first, Mr. Singer? Who's on first?
And Pat Senior's our head football coach.
Yes,
Yes,
who's on first?
Who's on
Because I
first?
had to look at it 3 times myself.
yeah, I go, okay, what's going on here?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Costanzo. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. Mr. Singer.
Yes,
She's loosening it up.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Okay, resolve the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2021-22 supplemental teaching assignments with the provisions that each such individual comply with all rules and regulations and State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certification and fulfills requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts. Entry-level teacher mentor, Sharon Freight. And entry-level teaching mentor, Brittany Hubble. Entry-level teaching mentor, year 2, Chris Rogers. And entry-level teaching mentor, year 2, Brittany Hubble.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
There's also one on the next
Oh.
page.
Oh.
Year-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't
Year
see
4,
Oh.
Sue Grodick, that's my fault too.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that
that.
one.
Yeah, resident educator colleague, Sue Grodick, year 4.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Ms. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolve the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby accepts the resignation of Taylor Smith, Director of Systems and Instructional Technology, effective end of the day, July 31st, 2021.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments?
Thank you.
So, question, again, just to clarify, so Taylor's gonna work for us until the end of this month, and then he's on contract as a consultant, so
Yeah,
they
so
just
his,
kinda
so.
put a transition.
Yeah, so his current contract goes through July 31st, and then if he was to stay with us, his new contract would have been effective August 1st, so we gotta get him off of his current contract, which ends July 31st. We wanna keep him as a consultant just for transition for our new person, passwords and transition, just because there's gonna be questions. And so that'll allow us to pay him, and it's up to, we could use Taylor for 2 days, we could use him for 5 days, we could use him for no days. But I just want Taylor available just in case our new person needs any questions answered in terms of, I wanna make sure everything's ready to go for kids on the first day and staff.
Okay, will he be available? I mean, is
He will, we've already had this conversation, it's gonna be all after hours or Saturday work. The student, I wanna make sure, I've already had the conversation with his new school district, it'll all be after his commitment with his new school district.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolve Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves up to 5 days, total of 40 hours, consulting transition time for Taylor Smith at his current daily rate of pay, effective August 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2021, to assist with the transition and coordination of technology services for the 2021-22 school year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved, Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the application for the following student activities of FY 2022 on file in Treasurer's Office as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, Colleen, I didn't get a chance to print up the student activity. Can you go over what those student activities are?
So the student activities that I have on there are the Honor Society, the prom, athletics. Oh, sorry, I don't remember all of them. The principal's funds that are on there, and it's just the budgets and the planning for the whole fiscal year. Usually they come intermittently. If they decide to do something, then I have to wait for, or they had to wait for a board meeting to get it approved, and then I could do it. This way, it's just planning and budgeting at the beginning of the year. And if anything were to change, or if they want to do something different, I would bring it to the board.
So if anything changes, you're gonna come back?
Yeah, I'll come back for approval.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes. All right. Treasurer's report. Now on to the superintendent's report for the Brooklyn Athletic Stadium proposal.
Yeah, just a couple, first of all, just a couple of comments. So even though this is going into the second year, this is the first live in-person meeting we've had with audience members and visitors. So just want to welcome everybody and thank you for showing up. And if you have time after the meeting, I'd love to talk with you and just say hello and introduce myself. So again, Mr. Changeri, thank you for your comments today. And Again, welcome to everybody. Just a couple comments, and then I want to kind of give a little preface and introduce Rodwell King, who's going to take about 15, 20 minutes to do a presentation for the Board of Education on a potential proposal that we have going on. So, as we enter the kind of the August, getting ready to get back to our the 21-22 school year. I'll be sending out information to our families, students, and community about our reopening plan this coming Friday, over the weekend, maybe Monday, in terms of what our plans are for the next school year. What I will say is that we are going to be pretty much a hopefully pre-pandemic normal school year from my perspective. I think we've turned the corner. I think we did a great job in terms of how we progressed through last school year, and that's due to our students, our families, our communities, our community, and our staff. But I want to let everybody know that information regarding masking and some of the other information that people are looking for, that'll be coming out later this week, early weekend, early next week. You'll be getting information from your building principals beginning of August, and then at the August 3rd board meeting, I'm gonna do kind of a reopening presentation for the Board of Education, just so kind of see the nuts and bolts of what I'm talking about. Kind of, we're gonna be following the some of the recommendations in theory and in foundation of the CDC guidelines, but I'm gonna kind of open that up and kind of lay out for the Board of Education of what that's gonna look like. I'll be doing that on the August 3rd board meeting, so we'll hopefully have a chance to ask questions. We'll be having that board meeting on YouTube, so families, community members will have a chance to take a look at that once again. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll be able to answer any questions anybody has. For the presentation this evening, one of the things that I noticed coming into the district a year ago is that some of our big ticket facility items in the district have not been addressed in many, many years. And one of those items that, especially on the facility committee and the board, that we've talked about parking lots, we've talked about some signage, we've talked about roofs, we've talked about some of those things. Our stadium, our track, some of those things have really been, I don't want to use the word neglected, but I can't think of another word to use other than neglected. And one of the things that I have Rodwell King here from GDP Architecture. He's done some work for the district in lots of different capacities before. I've asked him to, again, welcome Rodwell. I've asked him to come
Welcome. Thank you.
to here this evening to talk about a potential proposal for the renovation of the Brooklyn Stadium track. That proposal looks a lot of different ways, and again, I want to preface this by saying, and then I'll get out of the way so everybody can kind of see it, but I want to preface this by saying it can look lots of different ways, right? It can, we're going to look at the track itself, and the last time the track was resurfaced was 1996. So that's 25 years ago, right? We're gonna look at the concrete work, the fencing, there's security camera issues that we need to address at the stadium. The last time we renovated the concession stands, I can't remember. I know it wasn't in my lifetime. I know last time I was athletic director, it was still in the same condition, and every time I talk to Mr. Hennings and Mrs. Supek, we always talk about the concession stand. So he's here to kind of present the overall picture of the renovation of what that stadium looks like from a macro perspective. And he's gonna throw timelines and numbers, and again, this is kind of for the board to absorb and to ask questions. I've asked him to take about 15, 20 minutes to do that, and the board will then have an opportunity to ask questions. So I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm gonna go back here and drink some cold coffee and listen.
Thank you, Dr. Claris. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes.
Thanks. I've seen you on YouTube or wherever,
Yes.
but this
Oh,
is
we're
the first
big
time in
there.
person.
Yeah, yeah, we're popular.
Yeah, I subscribe to it.
Yeah. It's riveting.
So, yeah, in response to Dr. Calera's talking with me about what to do at the stadium, I, put a proposal together, and the proposal is reflected in this presentation, particularly with numbers and timeline and whatever. So this is my brief but spectacular agenda. Just talk about the scope, the concessions, schedule, financials, and then what I see the next steps to be. Thank goodness you have a printout of what I have, but in one of the financials, I got some new numbers this morning and updated it, which is, so that page is a little different, but otherwise it's the same. Project scope, replacing or repairing the pavement of the track and surrounds, like when you come into the stadium. Put a new surface on the track, new athletic surface. Resurface whatever track, asphalt may be necessary to resurface because it is cracked in some parts, so we'd have to grind it down and resurface that. And then I say the new track surface on top. Added to that would be fencing, new fencing, some security cameras to monitor the parking lot and the field and track, and the concessions, whatever they may end up being, because as Dr. Calera said, it could go a lot of different ways. So I'll head into the concessions first of all. You could do a new concession stand. The considerations there would be the time that you would have to do for designing it, getting permits, and getting it built. The utilities there in the proposed location, they're kind of unknown, so we'd have to go to the worst case scenario. Looking at that all leads to the cost. So I'm thinking at the extreme low end would be about 100,000. That's just the shell of the building, right? Connected to utilities. I've checked into prefabricated buildings. You could get one that's brought in and you put it down on site, and that would be about 150,000. So you're saving time with that, but the cost goes up. The interior fit out, you would need to do whether you had a new building or you repurpose the existing one. So consideration for renovating the existing is you've got a much shorter time for design, permitting, and construction because you basically got the shell there already. Utilities are there already, and the cost is way less because there's less to do.
Would you blow out the back wall?
Yes, that wall between the two rooms,
Yes.
I would blow that out.
I would assume you could do that any time of year.
Absolutely,
So you could have that done before the track was done.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and because really there's such a little contract work, it's really all equipment. Your contract work would be blowing out that wall, obviously taking out, demolishing what is there inside, just the countertops and the sink. And, there's some equipment that you might want to keep, but I'm thinking particularly of the beverage coolers, but for the sake of putting the cost together, I put numbers for new ones. We'd also replace these coiling shutters at the front, put in new stainless steel ones, so you don't have the rusty-looking painted appearance. And whatever electrical you might need.
So you blow out the wall just for space? So that
For
we get it-
space
for the
and
space
flow,
You
For the
probably
pump.
roughly
Okay.
double the size of the.
yes.
Is it possible, and I don't know, Bob and Kelly are here, the equipment, you got the grills and stuff, would you, does it fit through a regular man door? Or would you guys need a larger, because I'm assuming you want to store the grills and everything there?
Have that conversation in now, do you?
Well, I mean, if it's there, I mean, obviously you guys would want to store everything on site right there,
I
right?
prefer it. It's been at my house the last 6 years.
So,
I mean, it's a tight squeeze to fit through doors, especially the fryers.
can you,
I don't know if the grills can fit through the door,
can you take it through the overhead coiling shutters?
not if there's a counter.
Well, yeah, it's tomorrow's the count.
I'm sorry, I just,
Yeah, no, that's a good point, it's a good point.
So you need a wider door, like a 36-inch door?
It is a 36
It
tall.
is 36?
Yeah.
There's no potential to build out, right?
Yes, you can always build out, but again, it's going to add time to permitting and cost, and et cetera. So what I came up with, and this was just a quick exercise, if we blow that wall out and we put a new counter along the front and some stainless steel tables around, you've got a hood, which is also a really expensive piece of equipment. You don't have to, redo it. You would need a 3-compartment sink because that's a health issue, and you would need a hand sink. So put a hand sink in there as well. Put a new double-door beverage cooler and some shelves in the back.
What we absolutely need is a popcorn machine. I love popcorn. We absolutely
Well,
need a
that
popcorn
can certainly sit on the
That's a
tables.
must.
Yeah. And this also does, I don't know what equipment you've got, and obviously we can change this layout if I know what equipment you've got, but, at the moment, this end is just dead, and if you put a table there, at least you've increased your working surface and put your popcorn machine there, whatever. Get the beverage coolers out, put them back here. So
That's not really a good thing, because people need to see the beverage cooler so they can see what's in there.
okay, well, we could swap them out with the shelves.
I mean,
Put the
once we
shelves in
decide
there.
on the format of the shape of the building.
This is just like,
Yeah,
just
we
like
can
the
figure
very
all that out.
basic,
Yeah.
yeah, this is just the presentation. We
The
haven't made
beverage
anything,
actually
yeah.
needs to be up
Yeah.
front.
Yeah, this is just the basic. Okay.
So we get to a total of 292 square feet with that wall being blown out. Usable 292 square feet. Now there's
Yes.
just that little hatch, which must be difficult to operate with. So that was the scope. The schedule, and this really goes back more to the track. We would need some time to do the design, get the drawings out. We'd need time to advertise and bid the project. It's probably 4 weeks. Get the project undergoing, and then we'd need some time in which to construct, put the asphalt in, and then do the track surface. The biggest, we can compress the scale, but there's 2 things that we really have to take into account. One is the activities that are going on in the stadium, like homecoming, et cetera. And the second is weather. We could get the asphalt in yet this year if we wanted to. If we're bidding it, designing it and bidding it, that's going to take us into September by the time you start construction. The construction is going to take a month to do the asphalt, and then we're already at the beginning of October.
we got football games, and
You got football games,
yeah, it'd be impossible.
and the track surface people say they don't want to do any surface between October and June. So, to my mind,
When is track season? I know I look like a runner.
it's spring.
Yes, yeah, we would look at, we'd lose, yeah, it would be, we would have another season of figuring out next year, and then it would, yeah.
And the other thing is, if you did it this year, everybody is scrambling at the moment. I know we're doing them for other schools. currently, and we're up against the wall with the weather, with all the floods that we've had, all the rain. And so, you know, those contractors that got their backs up against the wall, they're busy. They're probably not going to be interested in bidding anything here. If you bid it at the beginning of the year, next year, they need to fill their order books. So you'll be one of the first projects. They got it, you'll get a good price.
So it just comes down to timing.
Yep. Timing and weather. So that is the perfect schedule there.
Now, the track surface is, has there been any developments, new developments with track surfaces as far as materials being used?
You know, there's latex and there's acrylic. And the acrylic, sometimes I get them back to front. I think the acrylic is just more expensive. The secret with track surface, it really hasn't changed much over time. The secret there is maintenance, making sure, you know, one of the crazy things is if you get leaves and things that get left on the track, you cause some mold growth and that gets in and destroys the surface. So, you know, you really need a guy with a leaf blower out there making sure that there's no leaves.
What do you look at me for?
Rodwell, what type of life of new track do we expecting on, so we install in next summer, 15, 20, 25 years, what's the life expectancy of a track?
The average life expectancy is about 13 to 15 years,
Okay.
depending on maintenance.
Maintenance, okay.
I was astounded a couple of years ago, we did and this, well, now a few years ago, we did a school down in southern Ohio, their track, and that was before GPD and before I joined GPD, and that was 23 years ago. So I went down there and they called me in to resurface it. It was the original surface that had been down 15 years, and that, to me, was pretty good. So they'll be
surface
up
do
for
we
a
have
new one
now?
soon. Excuse me?
What surface is our track now? Are we the acrylic or the?
You probably the latex.
The
I don't
latex,
think
okay.
I think when it was put down, I don't think the option was available.
Okay.
So we estimated the work, the pavement, to repair the pavement, the asphalt would be close to $100,000. The track surface, $165,000. Fencing and gates, $55,000 approximately. Security cameras, $35,000. That might be a bit on the high side because when we put this together, we didn't really know how many, where, etc. Earthwork, just, you know, that's touching up what they mess up. Be about $5,000, $10,000 to get them on site. Insurance and bond would be about $4,000. So we have $372,000. We like to, at this stage of the game, without any drawings, we like to have a 10% contingency. Usually that goes down to about 2 to 3% by the time the bids are accepted. So you're looking at about $409,000 for construction costs. Our fee per the proposal was $30,000. And I just want to elaborate a bit on the fee. You have contracted, you're a member of the Ohio Schools Council, and we are one of their two preferred architects and engineers, which means that to hire us, you don't have to go out and do the whole selection, qualification-based selection process. So when we negotiated the contract with the Ohio Schools Council, we accepted their standard contract fees for this work, which is based on $186 an hour or a percentage of the work. So the more affordable section of that would be 30,000, and that's not to exceed on the hourly basis.
Since we're talking about the finances here, this is the first major project that I've been involved in. And one of the reasons I ran for the school board was to get more involved in seeing some of the things. I'd like to go on record now saying we sent a letter to the city, and I know it's pennies compared to some of these numbers. I would say we request they waive the permit fees for this project. I mean, they've always said, well, you never asked, but the city has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars of permits away from this school. That could go to other projects, so I would suggest, as long as everybody goes along with it, we do that.
Do we have any idea what permit fees would look on a project like this?
You know,
Don't know until we get there?
I'm thinking that there's not going to be much.
Okay.
Okay, it may be, but
Yeah.
I know for the school, it was
Yes.
over $200,000.
Oh, yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree, thank you.
One last question on the, so is would the contingency fee, the contingency cost, would that include any foundational issues that, like,
Correct.
once they have like they pull up the track, the old track, would that include any foundational issues on the existing track that they find?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Ted, because when we built the field, we found out, what was it, Jim? About $50,000 additional cost, because when they built the original field, they built it on a very soft clay. So if they put a field on top of that, we would be replacing the field by now, because it would sink and cause waves and cause our.
Yeah, so Rodwell, so to that point, would we know that so let's say there are some foundational issues on the current track foundation. Would we know that information through a civil engineering
Yes.
process?
Yes.
Prior to going in, so that we would know that, like, because I'm a no surprise type of thing, and Colleen gets mad at me when I spend money, so I want to try to avoid those things, and I want to be upfront. So if we're going to undertake a project of this nature, and however we do it, I want to make sure that we're upfront and we have that, because this is an impact on our finances, and we want to make sure that we're preparing for something like that, because once we do it right, we'll be able to budget and maintain, but, you know, this hasn't been done for 25 years, and we don't know what type of damage or what type of wear and tear has been done over the past decade and a half.
Yes, like you, I don't like surprises. Pleasant ones, yes, but
Sure.
the ugly ones I don't like.
Okay.
So what we would do if we are authorized to proceed, the first thing we would do is come and do some soil borings through the track to see what was there, because I'm sure you don't have any drawings and things probably changed when it was built. So we'd do some borings to see what the underlying surface is and then design it accordingly.
Is there a possibility of doing this project in phases? So, for example, and I'm asking, so doing the track and the pavement in one phase, and maybe the fencing and the security and some is in another phase? I'm just asking so the board has kind of a big picture idea of how this could look from a financing standpoint too.
Absolutely. You know, when you look at the trades that are involved, you've got the people doing the asphalt, and that might be separate from the people who put down the surface, but you need a finished product, so you'd do that as one. The fencing, those track people are not interested in fencing, nor is the asphalt people, so we'd have a different contractor for that. Security cameras, again, none of the others would do that, so we'd have a different contractor for that. So each of those contractors could be phased.
So you could potentially do this into 4 phases, track and pavement as one, fencing as another, concession stand as another, potentially.
And security.
Excuse me, and
Yeah.
security,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so 5.
With these boring samples you take, how does that, my only concern is that you're taking something out, now you have a hole, because we still, even as rough as the track is, we still have people walking there.
We'd patch them up.
Okay, they just
Yeah.
backfill it and, okay.
Yeah.
That's
you're
how
not-
they found Rob, that's how they found the the fact that the clay was insufficient as a base.
Oh, I agree,
for
it
the
needs to be
field.
done, I just wanna make sure we don't get a call,
So-
somebody calls me like, hey, Dr. Ted, somebody
Would
rolled
that
their
be,
ankle.
yeah, would that be multiple samples throughout the track itself?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, there's some areas of that track that are pretty good, but there's some areas where it has cracked, and those are obviously where you would take more borings than where it isn't cracked.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, okay, all right.
We're not taking any questions from the audience right now, sorry, Mr. Chingary.
And then the concessions, we put some numbers together and say they're slightly different from yours, but the good number is that, well, the good thing is that the bottom line came down because I actually had a kitchen equipment contractor give me prices for things like the beverage cooler, all the tables, the sinks, the stainless steel counter, etc. You know, maybe I would think if you want the place to look good, particularly after the person's been in to blow the wall out, paint the whole thing again, paint the ceiling, the underside of the concrete that's there. You may want to paint the floor, make it look, you know, kind of spick and span. And then we'd have an allowance for the electrician, depending what equipment has got it going in there, what you think might be needed.
Are there
So-
mechanicals that exist in that other room
No,
currently? There's nothing there?
no. The only real mechanical that you've got in that space is the hood, currently.
So we just have storage in there now.
Yeah, and in the other place, it's just the hood.
Would it be inappropriate to reach out to some of these local big businesses, Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, and let them know we're doing this project and see if they want to make a donation of materials or
They'd have to
equipment
talk to
or-
Mr. Markling to make sure we're not violating any bidding rule. I don't think it would be an issue, but I gotta check with him
Okay.
to make sure, because if we go through the bidding process with GPD, wanna make sure we're following that process. I mean, I don't think we can, I think they can donate anything we want, but I just wanna make sure we're following that to the letter on something like that.
No, absolutely, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that have to
No,
be
no, I'm
compatible?
sorry, we're not.
You allowed an audience member to ask and answer a question. I have information related to where the drawings are for this building.
Mr. Ginger, why don't you, we will talk after
We'll
the
talk.
meeting and then.
Don't open it up to other people.
We didn't open it up, like, if a board member asks an audience member a
Well,
question,
then
that's allowed.
Somebody asked me a question.
That's allowed, if a board member can ask
I
an,
see the disparity.
a board member can ask an audience member, or our superintendent, our treasurer, or the person giving the presentation, a question at any time. And the reason why it was asked to that specific, audience member is because they are the ones in charge of the actual area that we're discussing. So that's why that was asked by, that's the assumption I'm making. So, we can continue.
So, yeah, involved with this, you would have essentially somebody to knock down the wall, do the painting, etc. You'd have the plumber and you'd have an electrician. I would think that you've probably got local trades that could assist with those in the city. And then you would have a kitchen equipment supplier come in and install it.
Possibility of tying Polaris crews into this?
I think that's a possibility. I think we just have to explore what that looks like, but
I'm
yeah,
just the
for
idea,
sure.
make it happen, Jim.
No, I don't, I think
Get
this.
that done, Jim.
Yeah, I think this scope of
Next
project
meeting.
is something that's doable from a, yeah, I think so.
I think it'd be a great opportunity for.
I
future
think if we're
this
talking
program.
about a renovation,
Yeah.
and we're not talking about relocation or utility work, and we're just talking, I think that's a definite possibility, and which then I think opens up the opportunity from donations and things like that. So, yeah, I definitely think that's something we can entertain for sure, yeah.
So the next steps would be the board to approve our proposal and the project, for us to prepare the bid documents, the construction documents, and then get it built.
Rodwell, I think once we're gonna open this up to a conversation, and if we decide to go down the phase road.
Mhm.
I would then probably ask you to redo the document in terms
Oh,
of
absolutely,
phases, and then we
yes.
can kind of go from there. Okay,
Yep.
very good.
Questions? Board members, any questions? Anyone have any questions? Clarification? I know we asked as the presentation went on. Anyone?
Just want to thank you for being
Thank
here.
you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you so
The
much.
practice field looks good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's coming on, isn't it?
Appreciate it.
Like once a week, I drove by and saw the coach stand after watching the grass grow.
Yes.
It was, kind of excited.
There's some ball patches and some low spots which got some standing water in. And I have been talking with the contractor. I don't know if they've shown up yet to fix it, but
I haven't seen anybody over there, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna.
It looks
just
great.
quickly through there.
I see it 5 days a week when I'm going there, walking and running in Memorial, and it looks great. It really has come along very well. Thank you so
and
much.
you've lost a mountain.
Yes, we lost Mount St. Brooklyn. We did, and it's gained our practice field back. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
I apologize. I went out of order. I will give the podium to, the floor to Mrs. A for her report. Sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to do a small report on the Fair School funding update in case anybody was aware that they're changing the formula. I'll have more about this in August, but I just wanted everybody to be aware that there was changing since the July 1st payment of the foundation came through and it was already implemented. We get two payments to their foundation a month. So the July 1, the new funding was reflected, and then the remaining will be in an October payment or later, according to ODE. The percent of the state amount now focuses on the local capacity. When you're talking about the local capacities, there's three main components. You have the total valuation of the property values. You have the total federal adjusted gross income, the taxpayer income, and the adjustment of the medium adjusted growth income. Both local incomes and property values will determine the financial burden for the district, and then the remaining share will be taken on by the state. So the difference here is the per pupil base for the cost. Usually everybody got the state averages of around $6,000, $6,100 per state. Now it's going to be dependent on a percentage of the local capacity, which could range from anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000, depending on where you fit on that. The local share of the Fair School funding plan tries to answer the question more of, is there wealth to tax, but is there the capacity to pay for the tax? So it takes on the consideration of the tax values and the income of the taxpayers. What else did I want to tell you about this? Right now, the base simulation, we have an increase for Brooklyn of about $262,000, but I want to know more information about the net. So I signed up for 3 seminars that are free to go over the Fair School plan of what it will affect for Brooklyn and the net. So when I get more information, I will definitely share it to the board and to the community, and I'm hoping to have that for August, for the August meeting. The enrollment will still take a part for the capacity per pupil amount, so enrollment still is very important to us, which always is. And it will be based on the district that's educating, instead of before it was based on, they had the district educating went for the homeschool, but then there was a transfer to the school. Now it's just going to be right up front for the district educating. I also wanted to note that 412 certificates are for a certain amount of spending that crosses over for fiscal years. For examples, the appropriation and the bargaining units, and those are signed by the board president and the superintendent, and then sent to the county. And yes, there was a negative $4 million in the forecasted budget, but that is without the renewals passing. And then the renovations scenarios, I would hope to have, if the board and the community would like it, for the October forecast. I could present it, a scenario with and without it to see what it looks like. And that's what I had for my update.
So for the 4 million deficit, that was without, because our renewals that we.
The
did not-
renewals for 24 and 25 if they did not pass.
Yes, and how many
Correct.
mills are those? Those are.
Oh, I
Yeah, but
apologize.
those-
5 for both.
So that's why
5,
it's such a
6.
drastic number, is because we just can't include those in?
Correct.
We're not allowed to,
I
yes.
do have, I have both scenarios, with them and without them.
Yes.
And the negative 4 million was without them.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. A, I have a question for you on fair funding. Is there a cap on total disbursements to all school districts?
Yes, there is a cap. It's a 2.5% of something. I apologize that I don't have all the terminology for you yet, but yes, there is a cap.
When you come back from the seminars, would you find
Yeah.
out, let us know what that cap is? Because it's interesting, you give us a formula, but once they run out of money, there's an artificial cap.
Yes.
They say, sorry, I would like to pay you what you're due, but we're out of money.
Yes.
Do you have any more information on the part about the homeschool versus the school educating the child?
So right now we have,
For that?
or not right now because it started in July, but before, if you have an open enrollment, I'm sorry, is that what your question
Yes.
is? An open enrollment student, the first couple payments in July go to the home district, and then we have throughout the year transfer to our foundation to get the money back. Right now, this formula is basing it on the educating district right away, so we would get the money right away, and those transfers back and forth wouldn't happen.
So that for the charter schools, it wouldn't?
Correct,
It would
correct.
just go right directly to
It
them?
would go right directly to
To
us,
us,
yes.
and then-
Or vice versa, depending on,
Where the, okay.
Yeah.
All right, just for clarification there. Anyone else?
that's it, thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you have any correspondence related to action information? No. Do you have any other business?
Ms. Barczyk, I'd just like to, if okay, add to the next board meeting, the item of discussion under board business of the stadium renovation project.
Yes.
So we could talk about it as a board and so we can vet this and have, just have the discussion in open forum. So I'll add that under board business for next time, if that's okay with everybody.
Did you need any information for tonight? Did you want to?
I did not, nothing for
Okay,
tonight. No, I
nothing
just
for
wanted to
tonight.
make that point, so I just want everybody to
Okay.
hear that I'll add that under board business for next time.
Okay, so for the
Yeah.
August 3rd meeting, we're going to be discussing it?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
I did get a phone call from Kathy Pucci. I guess she had fielded a couple calls, why they called her instead of
Sure.
school, I don't know. About the hours of the track, if it's gonna be open on the weekends. My explanation to her was that the cleaning crew, janitors, groundskeepers are the ones that open and close it.
Correct.
And it depends on if they're working, obviously in the off-season. We just can't assign somebody to do it because there's union activity involved, and that was my understanding of it.
That's correct, and what I'll do is I'll get with Mrs. Neal and figure out what that looks like. We typically have somebody on duty on Saturdays. I don't know if it's consistent, but I'll have to get with Sandy and we'll figure that piece out. But that's the correct answer.
Okay.
When somebody's on duty, we'll have it open, but I don't know if we can
I mean, I would
publicize
volunteer to
that.
open it on Sundays,
But
we
if that
just
wouldn't
don't-
cause trouble.
But that's what
But,
the union,
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally, I think that, like, I know we can't guarantee anything with Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, Monday through Friday,
definitely
Monday
can't.
through Friday, we can absolutely guarantee, and if we have some, and typically we have somebody on duty most Saturdays during the year because we have Saturday activities. Sunday, we cannot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the part with that, and I will say my opinion as a board member on that, and my take on that is, I realize, I know people have said and made comments about the track, that the citizens, it's the taxpayers' money that pay for that track, and that is correct, just like everything else around the city. It is the taxpayers' money who pays for City Hall, who pays for our ice rink, who pays for our rec center. But just because you pay for taxes, just like I pay taxes for everything at the rec center, doesn't mean that if I wanna go there on a Sunday at 10 o'clock at night, I have the right to walk into the rec center and use the rink. And the main focus, and the reason why, in my opinion, from what I know, is the board has closed it during certain hours, is that track, as much as we like for the community to be able to use it, is meant for the students. And if any damage is done to it, or if overuse happens, our students don't get to use it. And it's meant for our students. And that's what it was built for, that's what it's maintained for, that is the purpose of it. And so that is why, I know that's just, I think the thought behind it was the fact of, but I don't know about Sundays if we have anybody who's here, but when possible, I just don't want to get in a situation to where we can't commit to Saturdays. We
typically cannot commit to Saturdays. We definitely cannot commit to Sundays. Monday through Fridays are not an issue because we have somebody on duty all the time. So
Yes.
let me get with Sandy and then I will get that information out and we'll work something out. So give me till next board meeting to get that information together and we'll make an
I
announcement.
just didn't want to not ask the question.
No, it's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. Let me get that information.
Even if we could standardize something and put it on the website.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, let me get something together and then we'll get it out there for sure.
And
Yep.
that website looks far better. Far better.
Madam
It's easier to.
Mr.
just
Smith did it.
flows, it's
Mr.
easier
Smith
to
and
find
Mr.
current
Black
events.
did a wonderful job with that.
Yeah,
They did
very
it.
good.
Madam President, I want to urge my fellow board members and yourself and Dr. Ted, You know, I want to increase the communication to our community. I think, you know, a large project like this, with all the ins and outs and the available hours for the track and everything else, I think it'd be a great opportunity to do it like a town hall meeting and allow people in the audience to ask questions and go back and forth. I think this is a great opportunity for us to bring the people who use the track, you know, track parents, our students, the community, city council, you know, bring them in to ask questions. But I think we need to be a little bit more prepared, obviously.
Yeah.
Once we get a little bit more exact,
Yeah.
maybe to hold something.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think because we're not looking at a tight timeline because with this fall, I think we have a little bit of time to do that, so absolutely. I still like to talk about it as a board on August 3rd, just because it's fresh in our mind, but then we can go ahead and schedule something. Maybe we can schedule something after Labor Day, get school rolling,
Yes.
do a special meeting. We'll have it in the new community room and kind of do an open session. We can do a short presentation, see if Rodwell can come out again, have a conversation, and just do an open conversation. That's a great idea, absolutely.
Thank you,
Great.
Mr. Singer. Anyone else, any other business? Okay, announcement of the next regular Board of Education meeting is Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021, in the Brooklyn High School, room 173 is the new location, 9200 Bidoff Road, Brooklyn, Ohio, 6 p.m. It's in the high school, main high school entrance. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
Ms. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.